Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Remote Global. This is where we connect with global first entrepreneurs and remote work experts from all around the world to share their expertise and knowledge. Our guest today is Carlos Escutia, founder and CEO at GroWrk. Carlos, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for the invitation, Vit. Happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've had quite a journey. I mean, from your days at Casavant and FIS, right, and to creating GroWrk. So could you give us a quick introduction about yourself and maybe tell us a few words about GroWrk?
Absolutely. Thanks. Thank you. A quick, I guess, summary on my background. I'm a three-time venture-backed founder. Before this, I was the founder of Casa One, a venture-backed a company backed by Axel and a bunch of well-known investors
Okay.
that raised close to
Mm.
$80 million. This was one of the first kind of furniture rental technology platforms. Scaled that pretty fast. And as we were growing that company, I kind of came across the issues that we set out to solve here with GroWrk, which is we started hiring a lot of engineers in India and elsewhere outside of the Bay Area, where we were headquartered. And I experienced this pain point of, hey, I need to deliver a laptop, or I need to recover a laptop from my just this hire that we let go, or, we onboarded.
Hmm.
And so, when you're a small company, it's not a big deal, right? You can sometimes ask your team members to bring their own device. As you start scaling, you start getting to some compliance requirements, you start getting to some other considerations, including costs, incurred by asking your employees to bring their own
Hmm.
devices that simply, are not reasonable, right? And so you are in the necessity to provide a company owned equipment. And so that was kind of the issue that I spotted before. Was all pre-COVID, right? This is we're talking about 2017. So uh, you know, I thought there was an opportunity there. There were a lot of companies around us that were looking to hire remotely. And the first reason was very simple, right? It's economic, right? The
Hmm.
economics. Hired a $200,000 engineer in the Bay Area versus someone in India, Brazil for 80,000, 90,000 that has the same skill
Right.
level, right? And that was kind of where I saw the opportunity, and we started working on this idea of providing a solution that would streamline this for companies. Then the pandemic arrived, and it accelerated all this trend that we have been seeing, from
Hmm.
years to months, right? And we find ourselves today in this world where most organizations are expected to continue growing globally for multiple reasons, but definitely cost saving is a big driver. Despite all the narrative that sometimes you hear on the media of going back to the office, the reality is there. Companies continue to accelerate, going global, and with that, there are a number of services and solutions that are required to make that work at scale. And so
Hmm.
that's what GroWrk is building. We're building an IT service management platform. It's a new generation IT service management platform that is focused on serving the needs of global companies. Right. This could be small companies all the way to Fortune 500, publicly traded organizations. We currently serve as well in more than 150 countries. That's in a nutshell. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. And yeah, I mean, IT asset management is super important aspect of remote work, global work, right? And from my experience, it can be complicated. It can be frustrating, especially when hiring in multiple countries at once, like most of my clients do, in fact. So with that, can you go a bit deeper? How does your platform help companies expand globally and overcome those challenges of equipping in managing IT assets across multiple locations at once?
Absolutely. So traditionally, what companies have done is, they do it themselves, right? They have an
Hmm.
IT team that is looking for either vendors in the country where they're going to be hiring, or they need to buy it in their home country and ship it out to that employee, and
Hmm.
dealing with customs and taxes, which make it expensive, very expensive, right? Plus risky because you never know if those devices are going to arrive at all, which happens a lot, right?
Right.
And that's just for the delivery. What happens when team members leave your organization after a few months? It didn't work out. There's no easy way for you to recover those devices, so you just make an arrangement. Hey, just keep the device, and that's part of your severance package, right? And again, that works if you're a small company. When you start
Hmm.
getting into hundreds of, or thousands of employees, that's just not scalable, right? Your
Right.
IT team spends a lot of time in non-core functions, shipping, handling, logistics. You have this risks around compliance because you have team members that are working with their own devices, or in other team members that have company owned or procure devices. Very difficult to standardize security globally, right? And so that is the challenge that a lot of organizations face today. And so all of that is solved by working with us, GroWrk. Our
Hmm.
objective is to streamline and make it super easy for an organization to procure and retrieve devices and manage any service that those devices may need throughout the life cycle of those devices at the touch of a button.
Hmm.
So through the GroWrk platform, GroWrk can integrate with existing systems, HRIS, accounting, MDM, whatever software, whatever systems your organization is currently using, whatever stack your organization is currently using, ours can integrate pretty seamlessly, so that it becomes a streamlined process that provides visibility to all stakeholders in your organization and allows you to have better control on your expenses around IT technology, right?
Hmm.
Everything again automated through the Google platform. So that's in a nutshell
Hmm.
how we help organizations today. We
Hmm.
operate in 150 countries. Most of the business is done in countries like Mexico, Brazil, Colombia, Argentina, and Latin America. But in Asia also, India, China, Australia, in Europe, mostly Eastern Europe.
Hmm.
Those are kind of the biggest markets for us.
Right. Right. So you mentioned that the GroWrk operates in 150 countries, right? And how is it possible to cover equipment, logistics, and support all those countries, at once? Can you maybe break down how your operation runs? Do you
Yeah.
own that equipment and have your own service and delivery centers in every city,
Yep.
or do you rely on partnerships? Just curious.
Yep. It's a mix of everything, and
Mhm.
this comes out of our own learnings from building Casa One, where
Mhm.
uh, we had our own warehouses and last mile capabilities, and basically I was the head of operations there, and I built everything from the ground up. So I
Mhm.
saw kind of firsthand how difficult it was to scale, and how capital intensive it was to build a business like that. Right? In order to go global at the speed that is required, the realization is, look, you don't need to necessarily build those capabilities internally. It will depend on the country, right, and the size of the market and those needs. Such in the U.S. In the U.S., we have some local capabilities that belong to GroWrk. But for
Mhm.
the most part, we look for the best tier one partners in every single country where we operate, right? And not only one, but multiple to have redundancies. And what we have done is that we're building the software that connects to that existing infrastructure with the objective to standardize an SLA global, right?
Mhm.
Which it's very challenging and very difficult to achieve, and it's something that we continue to work on, right? Because different partners have different service levels, they operate differently depending on the country. They have different systems that they manage their operations with, and so GroWrk is building infrastructure that enables these partners to connect to our platform and provide the solutions that we provide to our customers through us, right? So everything is managed through the GroWrk platform. Ultimately, the customer is dealing with GroWrk, not with the hundreds of partners that we have globally. But in order to execute fast and efficiently, that's how we are structured.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Um, and you touched this a bit, but just I would like to go a bit deeper. So in my experience with tech companies, they're expanding into, for example, Latin America. It's something that I see all the time. I've seen many offering, kind of like you also thought about this, kind of offering cash bonuses for new hires to set
Mm,
up their home offices, right? They kind
yeah,
of outline their security and software needs and then let the employees handle the equipment by themselves, right? It seems
yeah,
like a very straightforward approach. But
yeah.
I, I get it in terms of large companies, but let's take, for example, around big company, around like 100 employees there, right? So with that,
Mhm.
why should companies like that choose your services instead? Some may see
Yeah,
this as a maybe less cost-effective approach. It appears that they would be paying for the equipment, right? And
yeah,
then for your services charges, could you
yeah.
help us understand this better?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are two things to consider when we're talking about equipment. The one that you mentioned is more around the workspace, right? The
Mm-hmm.
desk, the chair,
Mm-hmm.
those sort of things. That the best way to solve it is as you described it. Companies providing a stipend and reimburse for whatever amount. That's the easiest way. Why? Because it's very difficult for a company. And again, having experience with furniture, which was my previous company, it's
Mm-hmm.
very difficult for a company to impose, hey, these are the options of desks and chairs, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't know what is the style or the size or the space that that team member has, whatever he's working from, and dealing with that type of furniture is not easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different thing, and it's really not critical to the operation of an organization,
Right.
right? It's a nice to have, it's a nice perk to have, right? So what we're focused on is exclusively and specifically on IT solutions. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because IT solutions, it's a wide range, right, of IT equipment. It's not only a laptop or a monitor or peripherals, right? We work for organizations that we provide networking equipment, servers, right, in other countries. They're just setting up a new building in another country, and they're office centric, but they're expanding globally, and that
Mm-hmm.
they're not hiring people, working from home, but they're setting up a building literally in another country, and we're in charge of setting up all the infrastructure, the IT, right?
Okay.
Well, we make it very easy for organizations to outsource instead of building in-house all these capabilities. All of these
Mm-hmm.
organizations have to build it at some point. When you evaluate cost benefit, versus building versus outsourcing, it's very clear why it makes sense to work with us. Starting from the cost of equipment, right? One of the benefits of working with GroWrk is that GroWrk, as we scale in multiple countries, we purchase a significant volume of equipment, of IT equipment in any given country. That
Mm-hmm.
gives us access to better pricing directly from manufacturers or from distributors, which we pass through directly to our customers, right? That's the first thing, starting from the
Mm-hmm.
cost basis. From an ongoing kind of service requirements to ensure that those devices are operating up and running at all times to minimize downtime, which can be significantly costly for an organization if it's not managed properly. That's
Mm-hmm.
something that we also help companies save money on, right? Through our platform, employees can have access to help desk support 24/7. We have a on the ground support as well. If someone needs a device that needs to be replaced because something happened to it, we expedite that. We take care of it in 24 hours easily, right? And in most of these countries. And
Mm-hmm.
so what that ensures is that your team is, up and running at all times, and we minimize that downtime that can have significant impact. So those are kind of just some examples of why it makes sense to,
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about the cost or the time saved in running all of this, which can be
Mm-hmm.
significant, right?
Yeah.
By simply automating it through a platform like ours.
Okay, okay. And I guess I saw this in one of your articles or somewhere where you mentioned the increase of remote workplace lawsuits, right? So you kind of highlighted that ignoring safety practices not only puts employees at risk, but also exposes the company to legal consequences of this, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, could you share some examples or cases where companies faced legal consequences?
Yeah, so this is specifically to furniture in this place where you actually work in, right?
Hmm.
So when we started GrowWrk, we actually started testing that out, right? And so we came across
Furniture?
this
This is
data. Yeah, that's correct.
really?
It's
Okay.
part. What was part? That was part of the suite of solutions that we were kind of testing out as we were starting as
Okay.
an
Cool.
organization, right? And so what
Uh-huh.
we came across is this data point where there were lawsuits in the U.S. and in Europe where someone got injured because they have a cord somewhere and that was their office, and so the company was sued because they didn't have the proper equipment set up, right? So that's what those lawsuits are around. I think that as it pertains with IT equipment, the risks are more around data breaches, right? How do you handle the data that is stored in equipment that is sensitive, right? And I'll give you a specific example. In India, right, we have organizations that are hiring eh, eh, engineers, and
Hmm.
and they have very sensitive data. There's specifically one organization that focuses on design that we serve, and they wanted to make sure that they could recover those devices within 2-3 days after an employee is afforded. And
Hmm.
so, they basically, what they were facing is, this employee does not want to, open the door to us, and does not want to uh, let us, recover those devices. And so the company
Hmm.
was very concerned because, hey, even though everything is connected to MDM, these are people that are knowledgeable, and they can work around how to access and store the data and
Hmm.
keep it and sell it somewhere else, right? And
Hmm.
that's a big risk, right? And so there was a lawsuit that was started, obviously, against the employee. Not this was the other way around, not the organization. But GroWrk was instrumental in helping this company, provide all the documentation and all the proof of, hey, this employee actually has this data, this equipment, has not been able to, willing to return it. And so, we were able to help out in solving it favorably. But yeah, those are kind of the risks that we can think about specifically to GroWrk, right, with IT equipment. And again, this article that you read was more focused on the consequences or the risks of not having the proper space,
Hmm.
and the company being held liable. But I believe that organizations today are being proactive about it by providing either stipends or access to ergonomic
Hmm.
coaching support, that sort of thing, and that definitely will minimize it.
Okay. Okay. So another question that I would like to ask you, as you work with different organizations, so like a global first organizations, right? I would like to hear your perspective on this. So, for example, what I noticed last year, the main motivation to go global for my specific clients was just talent shortage in the US, right?
Mhm.
This year, this motivation changed a bit, and the main motivation this year is just to cut costs, right? So
Absolutely.
given this shift, what do you think the future holds for remote work and this global hiring trend? Are we going to see this become a normal way of doing things, or will it end up being a special kind of perk offered only for certain companies, certain sectors, like a gig
Yeah.
guys?
No, this is going to be prevalent. This is going to be everywhere. As a matter of fact, you see it already, right? To your point, we are seeing exactly the same trends. Organizations
Hmm.
today are focused on cost saving, and so what are they doing? They're doing exactly what you described. They're downsizing in high cost regions and
Hmm.
hiring or building engineering teams in lower cost regions. That's just the nature of the beast, and it is what it is, right? You can't go around that. It's a very
Right.
logical, trend, and that is not going to slow down anytime soon. Right? We unfortunately we have those situations where companies decide to cut costs in the U.S. and
Hmm.
start a hub in India or in Brazil or any of those places. Right? That's
Right.
happening a lot, and it's being driven and accelerated by this adoption and this understanding that you can operate effectively in a distributor organization.
Hmm.
Both employees and companies know this. And again, despite all the narrative that you hear about a push to go back to an office, that's just the reality of what's happening, right? So if you try to predict what's going to happen, this trend line in the next few years, this is going to continue expanding, right, to multiple, job roles that can also
Hmm.
be done remotely. And I think this is a win-win for everybody, right? Not only organizations will have access to the best talent anywhere, but
Hmm.
also at a reasonable or manageable cost. But also employees are not forced to live in a high-cost place, right? In our company, we get to work with all types of people, right? That work remotely, and we hear stories of employees that used to live in New York or San Francisco that are now in Mexico City or
Hmm.
in Bali or some low cost place where they continue to have a great job, and their quality of living is significantly better because they're able to have that flexibility of living in a place wherever they choose, and it could be seasonal, right? You don't have to be in one place forever. So that's just something that will continue to happen. We'll also see, one of the reasons why we're excited about what we do, and along with a lot of companies that are looking to enable or make it easier for organizations to hire and manage their team members globally, is the access of opportunity that this provides to folks that traditionally have not had access to, right? And so
Right.
this enables social mobility. This enables creation of wealth that traditional would only be possible if you emigrated from that country to a place like the U.S. or somewhere in Europe, right? And so it's awesome to see now that folks that are talented, are super smart and driven, they don't even have to leave their village as long as they have internet connection, and what they're able to do and how they're able to scale and help their communities. It's amazing, and I think that that's just a great benefit of remote work, right? The downside of this is that you'll see a lot of folks that now have to compete at a global level, right?
Hmm.
And so they need to level up, and they need to get to a point where you're as good as anybody else in the world, right?
Hmm.
And so I think that's kind of the what we're seeing. But I think overall it's a win-win for everybody, and we're very excited about that future.
Yeah, yeah, I cannot agree more with you because as someone who's from Ukraine, and probably you know what's going on there right now, and that's
Yeah.
great to see that guys there, just because of this remote work and global hiring trend that, well, I mean, at least it was like last year. I mean, they managed to get a really cool job for a US company, and they still can, support their families in Ukraine, and that's because of this trend and because of remote work. So I totally agree with you. um okay, so in speaking about the future, right? So as we started about this, uh, GroWrk focuses on providing equipment for remote workers, right? Are you planning to expand beyond equipment and maybe manage some other categories or services for distributed employees?
Yeah, that's a great question. And look, as we look at the future of GroWrk, for us, managing IT, asset procurement and management at a global scale is not an easy thing to do, right? So
Right.
unlike a lot of platforms that promise to do everything, the reality is that this is so complex that you can be a jack of all trades and master of none, and that's exactly what we're seeing at a higher level, right? A lot of companies that come to work with GroWrk is because they tested other platforms and they just didn't get the solution that they needed, right? And that's a reality because this is not simply a software solution. This is dealing with logistics at a global scale that require time, to manage, and it's not a static thing. It's a pretty dynamic, operation that it needs to adapt and adjust to maintain an SLA at a global scale, which is not easy as you might expect, right?
Yeah.
And so when thinking about the future, what we're looking to build here is that we're still working on this solution of providing a standardized SLA at a global scale, right? But as in thinking about the future, we see a big opportunity just becoming a next generation IT service management platform that not only deals with hardware, but
Hmm.
also with software and security solutions that optimizes and minimizes risks for global organizations. And so that is kind of the next step for us. We're going to be starting providing solutions around security. As every company today, we're also we have a big push internally to develop services around AI that
Right.
optimize, and this processes. And so that's exactly what the route that we're going to pursue. We don't want to be everything for everybody. We
Hmm.
want to be known as the company that focuses on IT service management at a global scale, right? And
Okay.
so and that will encompass multiple services that we will be building and deploying as the opportunity and the demand presents.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, Carlos, I guess we're good. Thanks a lot for sharing your insights, and we wish you and GroWrk all the best in your journey. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you, Bit, for having us here.
Yeah, thank you.